City cars are better than ever. Blending life-saving technology, clever cabins and punchy little engines, cars like the Mazda2, Suzuki Swift, Citroen C3 and Volkswagen Polo represent compelling new car options, even if people just don't want to buy them. It's a tricky time for cars in this class. The headlong rush towards SUVs has hurt sales of light cars, as have increasingly affordable models from the next size up, bigger brothers such as the Mazda3 and Hyundai i30. The effect is so profound that Ford decided not to bring the all-new Fiesta to Australia or America, which is welcome news for the likes of Volkswagen and its new Polo. Sharing its underpinnings with the latest Golf, Volkswagen's new Polo is a big deal, literally, as it's larger than before. The Polo features an impressive level of standard kit, including autonomous emergency braking, but you have to pay $1,400 extra to get hold of driver aids such as active cruise control. We also reckon its halogen headlights look cheap in this company. Volkswagen customers will feel at home in the Polo, which features a familiar interior layout common to larger models such as the Golf and Passat. The Polo is the most modern car here, and you really feel it on the inside. At 8 inches, it has the largest touchscreen of this group. It's impressively finished, and it's loaded up with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but not satellite navigation. Impressively, there are 3 power outlets to keep your gadgets on the go, 2 USB points and one 12-volt unit in the middle of the cabin. As usual, Volkswagen is on top of its game with premium materials, though it is the only car in this group that uses standard air conditioning in lieu of climate control. Priced from $22,990 plus on-road costs in Launch Edition form, the Polo is powered by a 1-litre 3-cylinder engine which uses 5 litres of petrol for every 100 k's that you drive to send 85 kilowatts and 200 newton meters to the front wheels through a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. Listen to that. That level of refinement is what you're paying for in a Volkswagen. The Polo really does feel like a grown-up car compared to some of its rivals. It doesn't feel like a small, cheap car. This is a compact car that is all grown up. It has well-sorted dynamics, feeling taut and European in its balance. It's not a hot hatch by any standards, but it just responds really nicely to steering inputs, and it also shrugs off bumps fairly well. The Polo is a little bit less lively to drive than the Swift, and its engine doesn't quite have the same amount of character or punch really. It is a bit heavier than some of its rivals, and you do feel that sometimes. If you turn left and put it into a corner, the Polo just whips in really nicely. It's got no real hang-ups at all about cornering. It feels flat. In stop-start traffic, the engine does go off, and then when it fires up again, it does take a few moments to get going, and I do find that quite frustrating, particularly in heavy traffic where it's going to be doing that all the time. Yes, you can turn the system off, but if you do that, it's not great for the environment, and it also does hurt your fuel figure. If you're going to achieve the 4.9 litres that Volkswagen claims for this car, you've got to leave that system on. It is annoying though. Smooth, quiet and refined, this really is a polished car out on the road. It's got some great technology in it as well, but you do have to pay for it. To match the Swift standard specification with active cruise control and other goodies like that, you've got to spend $1,400 on the Polo to get to that same level. And at this level of the market, that is not cheap. These sort of cars, you know, people are usually bickering over $500 here or there. If you're adding $1,400 in options just to make it to the minimum standard held by one of your rivals, that is a fair spend. On the whole, the Polo is an impressive car. It really does feel like a bigger car in a small package. It's a very polished, refined thing. It's a car that sets standards in many ways. The Polo is a previous winner of Drive's Car of the Year award, but the city car class has been dominated in recent years by the Mazda2. There's a good reason for that. The Mazda2 looks good, it's easy to drive, great on fuel, and it's reasonably safe too, equipped with autonomous emergency braking as standard. Priced from a fairly steep $23,680 plus on-road costs in top-end GT form, this premium version of the Mazda2 takes on the polished Polo with a handful of luxury touches inside and out. The Mazda2 really stands out with its head-up display system and the sort of rotary infotainment controller normally found in luxury cars, though Apple CarPlay is a disappointing omission. The Mazda2 feels a little dated under the bonnet too, powered by a 1.5-litre engine sipping 4.9 litres per 100 k's to deliver 81 kilowatts and 141 newton meters. The Mazda2 needs to be worked hard to deliver its best. The Mazda2 is the oldest car here, and it's also the only one that goes without a turbo, which means that it doesn't quite have the torque of its rivals, and you can hear that it sounds just a little bit stressed at the top of its tacho. Its 6-speed automatic transmission is a smooth shifting unit, though it can be confused sometimes when choosing the right gear. Can't complain too much about how the Mazda2 steers. It has a slightly softer, more comfortable balance than the Polo and the Swift, but largely it's a well-sorted thing that certainly does quite well. Mazda2 has been a favourite at Drive for years. It's our reigning best city car champion in the Drive Car of the Year awards, and partly that is due to its strong standard specifications, including autonomous emergency braking, which is a standard feature across the range. This GT model though is a little less impressive. It is the dearest car in this group, and you don't get in quite as much gear as you do in some of the others. You can't have things like active cruise control in the Mazda2, though I'm sure that will be on the way in its predecessor. The other bugbear, and you may be able to hear it right now, is road noise. Mazdas often struggle to eliminate road noise from the cabin. There can be a real boom and a roar throughout the cabin of the Mazda2, and that really does let it down, particularly when you're comparing it with more refined rivals such as the Volkswagen Polo. I really don't mind the way the Mazda2 drives, but that noisy little engine and its road noise can really get annoying after a while. Mazda claims that at 4.9 litres per 100, this is the most efficient car in the group, though in the real world, it's much of a muchness. Overall, it's a fairly impressive machine, one that really doesn't do a lot wrong.
We didn't pick the cheapest cars in the class for this group test, electing to showcase what you can get if you're prepared to spend a little more money. And the Citroen C3 is a great example of that. Priced from $23,490 plus on-road costs, the C3 is powered by a turbocharged 1.2-litre 3-cylinder engine that uses 4.9 litres per 100 k's to make 81 kilowatts and 205 newton meters. It's the only model in the C3 range and feels reasonably well equipped with a reversing camera, sat-nav, climate control and other handy features as standard.
Citroen is renowned for its French flair in delivering funky interiors, and the C3 certainly offers that. I really like this interior. It might be my favourite of the group. It's comfortable and interesting to look at with these rounded off rectangles everywhere you look. Citroen uses fewer dials and buttons than its rivals, relying instead on this tablet style screen in the centre of the dash. It looks pretty, but it takes a little bit of time to master.
Backed by a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty that smashes the 3-year guarantees offered by rivals here, the Citroen is the most expensive model to service, costing almost twice as much as the Mazda2 to maintain.
Interesting to look at and interesting to drive. That's the C3 in a nutshell. Citroen does things a little bit differently, both on the road and off. It's a charming little car this, with an engine that really does have some character. This new breed of 3-cylinder turbocharged engines represent downsizing in the name of efficiency from larger, naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engines. Now the little triple in the Citroen it's a great little unit. It's a 1.2 litre, so it's got a little bit more size than the Polo and the Suzuki, and a little bit more punch as well. It's got more torque than any of the other cars here, and it claims to be the most efficient in line with the Mazda2, both using around 4.9 litres per 100 kilometres. Out on the road, the Citroen is quite interesting. It's got a reasonable amount of punch, and you can hear there's some real character in its engine as well. It's got a nice little snarl when it changes gears, mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission that drives the front wheels. Now the automatic, I have to say, isn't the best I've driven. It feels a little bit grabby. It feels like it wants to surge and carry on a little bit sometimes. Basically, it's not as smooth as it should be, and it's not the greatest companion to this engine. The C3 is reasonably refined. It's a fairly quiet car and it rides decently as well, but there is a little boominess to the suspension, as you can hear, while you go over bumps. You don't feel them too much through the seat, but you definitely do hear them out on the road. When you're driving the C3, you also notice its body roll. This car is just a little softer than the others. It's got fairly crisp steering that responds really well, but the actual body can lean and roll and pitch around a bit. It feels like it doesn't have quite the direct connection to the road that some of its rivals do, particularly the Swift and the Polo. On the whole, the C3 is a good car, one that's let down by a lack of safety equipment and fairly expensive servicing. Those are two things that Citroen may be able to address when the midlife update for the car comes in coming years.
The C3 is really held back by a lack of autonomous emergency braking. You can't criticise the top-end Suzuki Swift GXL Turbo of that. This car has an impressive suite of driver aids as standard, including autonomous emergency braking, active cruise control, and lane departure warning systems. It also gets stuff like proper sat-nav and smart keys that you won't find in the Polo, all for a low price of $22,990 plus on-road costs.
The Swift has the sportiest interior here, home to well-bolstered seats and a flat-bottom steering wheel with shift paddles. Always great to see. There are plenty of toys to play with, including sat-nav, Apple CarPlay and climate control, as well as a useful amount of storage space. However, the Swift is let down by cheaper materials, including hard plastics that feel cheap. Powered by a 1-litre 3-cylinder turbo engine, the Swift uses a touch more fuel than rivals, only 5.1 litres per 100 k's, to make 82 kilowatts and 160 newton meters, driving the front wheels through a 6-speed automatic transmission.
The Swift is far and away the sportiest of this quartet. It really does have some interesting character to it that I, as an enthusiast, really welcome. Yeah, you've got stuff like the paddle shifters on the steering wheel, but you can also just listen to it. There's real verve to this little engine. Just have a go at this. Yeah, there's a charming 3-cylinder roar to it. No, it's not the most powerful car in the group, but it is the lightest by far. And that really shines through in its reactions. You tip it into a corner and it just bites and turns, and it's just a joy, really. It's a lot of fun. Crisp steering, fairly flat body. It feels almost like a little hot hatch, which is really quite a compliment. It's a lot of fun, the Swift. It is proving to be a real favourite among this group. The Swift is a lot of fun to drive, but it does lack in a couple of areas. For one thing, it's not nearly as polished and refined as the Polo, which does in some ways feel a class above these rivals. Suspension can be a little bit crisp, but I really don't mind that. I like that direct connection and direct feel that you get from the Swift, which makes it something of an enthusiast car. The Swift also wins points for its advanced suite of driver aids. The other cars here simply can't match the standard specifications that Suzuki packs in to this little car. That is really quite an impressive trait that it has, and yeah, it's something that we're really factoring into this decision. The Swift is my favourite to drive. It really has proved to be a surprise package.
The Swift is let down somewhat by a warranty limited to 100,000 kilometres and 6-month service intervals that can be a bit of a hassle.
These are all impressive cars. In this segment, the Polo's quality and refinement really do shine through. But I have to say, the Swift's driving dynamics and outstanding specifications really make it our winner today.